Welcome to A Pinch of Basile. I am your host with the most. I am Basil. Good to see you all. Hey, did you kill anyone in your family yet inside your house? Just checking. I just want to find out. Janice, who just made it by the skin of her teeth, has just got into the studio, and it's good to be with my co-host Janice Hermson. Janice, how are you, sweetheart?
I am doing well. How about you?
So far, so good. And ladies and gentlemen, we could not do this beautiful broadcast without Christian Meyer. How can we thank you? I know you want large bills, unmarked preferably, but how can we do this show without you? We can't. Just got to let you all know that we are now also streaming this show live on wonderful Facebook on Basile Fans, BASILEFANS. You can catch us also on AmericaMatters.us and see, go ahead and check it out there as well. I mean, I'm telling you, you're going to see a pinch of Basile everywhere. And if you're on the computer, just go to AmericaMatters.us. If you want to hear from our comments, go to my Basile Fans page. And if you have any questions, go to 844-790-8255. Or you can actually text us. Janice, what is that magical text number?
Well, that number is 775-237-2266.
It's so good to be alive and kicking. We're doing real well. And, folks, this is the first time we've ever done this. We have two wonderful guests with us who are going to be with us for the show. We're going to have Congressman Gus Bilirakis, who is on the phone with us right now. Gus, welcome. And I just want you to know that you are being heard around the world on Greek Beat Radio.
Greek Beat Radio.
And that's signals going all throughout Europe and through Australia, as well as South Africa, South and Central America, and, of course, all over here in wonderful North America. That includes Canada and the U.S. So first, right off the bat, let me go to Gus's bio. He is our good friend. Congressman Gus Bilirakis joined us for last hour. Well, he's going to join us the first half hour of the show. He is the Republican from Palm Harbor, representing Florida's 12th congressional district. He was first elected to Congress on November 7, 2006, and is serving his sixth term in the United States House of Representatives. Gus serves on a number of committees, including being the co-chairman of the Military Veteran Affairs Caucus and the co-chairman of the Congressional Hellenic Caucus and the Congressional Hellenic Israeli Congress Alliance. Thank you, Gus, for joining us, and especially, I know you're homebound right now. Thanks for coming on the air with us.
Oh, my pleasure, Basil. Now, you said we're being heard all around the world. Now you're making me nervous, Basil.
No, you kidding? They need to know about you, Gus. They need to know about you, my brother.
We're all friends. We're all friends.
Absolutely. Yes, we are. And, folks, to let you know, like all of the House of Representatives, Gus, you're at home in Florida right now?
Yes, I am. In the Tampa Bay area.
Beautiful.
Palm Harbor, Florida, right outside of Tarpon Springs.
Beautiful. And how are you and the family getting along inside an enclosed home?
Typical Greek family. What can I tell you, Basil?
So no one's talking to each other. That's beautiful.
It all right there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That's
all
how
right,
we stay
Gus.
together.
I live under those still same confines. Don't you worry about a thing. And most of the people that are watching right now on our show, and then all of you who are listening to us all over the world, I am just surprised. There's two things are going to happen. Either 9 months from now, we're having a lot of babies, or a lot of divorces. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe a little of both, right?
A little of both, maybe divorces with babies. I have no idea. But I'm telling you, it's a little bit crazy. Gus, let me ask you a couple of questions now that I have you on the phone. What's the feedback you're getting from your constituency about the programs being offered right now?
Well, you know what? We're on the phone constantly with constituents. My staff is actually working. There are a couple from home. Working from home, but most of them are in the office. We're getting a lot of calls. They're having a hard time, just like everyone else, processing the unemployment benefits, applying for them, and waiting for the check. Now, you know, that's the state system. not a federal system, but of course we allocated the money. They have the PPP, which is that Paycheck Protection loan, is very, very good for small businesses in particular. But some of the banks are having trouble with it. Now, it's only been online now for a little over a week. And now we're finding some success there. But I would encourage people who own small businesses to make sure that they look into this program, because the intent of the program is for the government. Actually, we're going through the bank, but the money comes from the federal government, taxpayer dollars, of course. But the intent of the program is to keep these good people that work for the small businesses employed. So it'll be a loan, but that portion of the loan, the payroll portion of the loan, will be forgiven if the employees are continuously employed. So in any case, I don't want to get to all the details, but it's a great program. The banks have the guidance now, so there shouldn't be any problems, and it's supposed to be a quick turnaround. And to tell you the truth, I've heard we were with Mnuchin this morning, on a conference call, the Secretary of Treasury, and they've spent a lot of money so far, so they've given out a lot of loans. I believe, I don't want to be wrong on this. I hope you're not fact-checking me, Basil. I'm in trouble.
No, I am, though, Gus.
That's what I got Janice for, Gus.
And we're gonna have to break away here in just about 20 seconds. So
Gus, we're going to wind up because I do have some questions on the PPP and then also about the SBA loans that are coming up. But folks, right around here, you're listening to Basil Around the World. This is A Pinch of Basile. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. Thanks for holding on.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now, back to the show.
Oh, we are indeed back. You are listening to A Pinch of Basile. I'm your host with the most. I am Basil, Rosemary and Herb's son, talking to you right now, along with my wonderful guest and good friend, Congressman Gus Bilirakis, who is now calling us directly from his home in Florida. He represents the 12th District in Florida. And, Gus, good to have you back. I do have a couple of questions, Gus. We were talking about the PPP that is involved right now. And you're saying and there's a lot of independent contractors who are, in my industry, comedians, entertainers. Do they qualify under that program, under the PPP?
Yes, they do. They do. And the loans, the banks have been taking applications since Friday. So since this past Friday. Now for the others, it was the Friday before. So, but we wanted to make sure that the independent contractors, such as entertainers, but also, we got to cut our hair eventually. So we have a lot of barbershops and hair salons and what have you. There are a lot of people that qualify as independent contractors and sole proprietors. So if they're under 500 employees, obviously they're independent contractors, so they would qualify for this PPP. So that's a question we get quite a bit, Basil.
Okay, good. We have a caller right now, Greg, who is joining us. Greg, how are you? And welcome to A Pinch of Basile.
Good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. What's your question?
I just hope we get through this pandemic and everybody goes back to work.
Have you applied, Greg, to any of the programs that are available to you?
I've been having trouble. I'm calling from Florida, too, from Tarpon Springs.
Okay. Oh, Greg, that's where I'm from. I think you know the Congressman Bilirakis. I'm calling from Minnesota, but I was raised in Tarpon Springs. But go ahead, please.
I've been having problems getting on the unemployment website.
Yeah, and that's a state issue. But we've been putting pressure on the state officials. I've been in touch with the governor's office on several occasions, as has my staff, and the system is just overloaded. They say they've fixed everything, and you could apply now.
And my next
and wait for a text, but it's not. Greg, you're absolutely right. They're still having trouble with it.
Yeah.
And
my next question
but
is,
you may be getting. Can you get you may be qualified for a stimulus check? Is that? Are you working? You were working. Okay. You were working.
I was working.
Yeah.
The thing is, I'm on SSD. Will I still qualify if I'm on?
You're on Social Security disability. Yes, you would qualify for the stimulus check.
Good.
Okay. So you probably will receive $1,200. Now I don't know whether it should be automatic deposit. Hopefully it is. Do you get your check automatically deposited, or does it come through the mail by check? Does the money come through
direct deposit?
How do you get? Okay, good. All right. So what you should be receiving a check tomorrow, Greg, for $1,200. Okay, and those on Social Security, seniors as well. Tomorrow they should be receiving a check. If it's, again, automatic direct deposit, and more than likely it'll be a $1,200 check per individual. All right?
Okay.
And veterans who are on disability, they should be receiving a check as well. So, yeah, so, I know that these are tough times, Greg, so we've got to do everything we can to help.
Well, I will say this, Greg, thank you, first of all, for your phone call. Great questions, and thanks so much for calling in. Gus, earlier I was talking to Janice, and the one thing that truly impressed us, these programs were just initiated no more than 2.5, 3 weeks ago. And we're already starting to get actual money into the various accounts that are coming in. And this is probably the quickest I've ever seen the federal government work. And I give the federal government and everyone so much credit for doing that. Now, we probably would have even got it in a little bit quicker, but because of all these other various programs that the other side didn't really want to do, they were giving to all these other different issues instead of concentrating on the folks. I mean, how did that work out? And I'm sure a lot of people were very, very upset with that. I know I was, and there was a lot of people that I know that were upset with that. Has Speaker Pelosi actually said anything about that? Or because I know she had to pull back on most of it.
Most of it. And, as you know, Speaker Pelosi is in charge of the House of Representatives. Her party is in charge. And you're right. A lot of they tried to stick a lot of the programs in there that weren't germane to this particular virus or this particular recovery. And the Senate is controlled by Republicans, and Mitch McConnell did the best he could, but a lot of things were kept in there. Not as many as Speaker Pelosi would like, but when you have the split government, you have Democrats controlling the House, Republicans controlling the Senate. You've got to negotiate. Now we're trying. I'm a Republican. Now there's some Democrats that agree with us too. So I don't want to be partisan, but we know that this program is working. Now, it's taking a little more time than we expected, but like you said, and you're absolutely right, Basil. These programs were just put in effect 2 weeks ago, and they're starting to help out individuals and small businesses, and helping out the hospitals as well, because they're taking care of the people. And again, the doctors and the nurses are really doing an outstanding job. The healthcare providers, my goodness, what they're going through. It almost is like a war, Basil. But but we need to put another $250 billion in there for this PPP program because it's not running out yet, but it will run out.
Sure.
I think there's still $100 billion left, but it will run out very soon. So, but the Democrats, particularly Pelosi and Schumer, not all Democrats, they want to stick other things on there again.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah,
I'm
go ahead,
sorry
please.
to interrupt, but and I hope you don't mind.
because I know.
I hope you don't mind, Basil. But I guess
Jen.
what I want to do is I want to say we understand politics. We get it that you guys are all into that, and that is part of what happens in Washington D.C. But I had a show yesterday where I had people calling in, or not calling in, but writing into me, and they're very frustrated, and they're really on the edge. If you could feel the pain that they're feeling, and they're wondering why all the politics at this point. This is not about politics. This is their lives, and you've just shut our lives down completely. So I'm trying to express to you from them. Why would Speaker Pelosi, any of them, why would they do this? This is about the people. This isn't about Democrat or Republican.
No, Janice, you're absolutely right. It is very frustrating, and I'm angry because, ultimately this is going to be negotiated. We're going to have a fourth phase. So this is kind of the 3.5 phase where we need money for these small businesses in order for them to continue to operate. Mom and pop businesses that have been around for years are talking about closing their doors forever. Yeah. We don't want to see that. So what's happening is they're playing politics, and I'm getting a little partisan now. Schumer and Pelosi, okay, not all Democrats, but the leaders, okay, are playing politics. We could have had this thing negotiated last week. McConnell tried to get a bill done with the $250 billion, and they couldn't get cloture because Schumer didn't allow it.
Right.
So what happens is now it's dragging on. It will be taken care of. All right, Pelosi says we got to take care of the hospitals. Sure we do. Absolutely we have to take care of the hospitals. She wants to do some more for the food stamp program. We'll take a look at that. But what the president is saying, and he's right on this, let's get this money to small businesses first, right away, because it's needed. The other funds are not needed at this particular time because there's plenty of money there. We've allocated enough money for them, for a few more weeks at least, okay? But the small business program, and small businesses employ 50 to 60% of the people, okay?
Exactly.
Let's get this done first, and then we're going to go to phase 4. And so, I think the president is pretty open-minded and pragmatic when it comes to this.
I think he's done great, and Gus, unfortunately, we have less than a minute to continue, but I think the House as a whole, to be quite honest with you, including the Democrats, I mean the whole shebang, has done a real nice job. There's a couple little pet projects they wanted, got cut out, it was done. But Gus, the work that you have done and the expediency that you actually went and put this whole thing together has been fantastic. And it's going to show in the accounts that stimulus package of $1,200 a piece. It was unbelievable as well. And then we learned about the PPP.
Yeah, $500.
We didn't even get a chance to get back to the SBA. But Gus, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart of being with us again. We love you. Thank you. And we'll make sure that we get you in a couple of weeks. Go, folks. You are listening to A Pinch of Basile. I am your host, Basil. We'll be right back after these messages.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now back to the show.
Oh, we are indeed back with A Pinch of Basile. As I said, Herb and Rosemary's son. I'm so happy to be here. A couple of things. First of all, next week, I believe we have Greek Olympian Katerina Stefanidis, who's the pole vaulter, will be on our show. And I got a couple of other little surprises that I'm working on as well. I'm very, very happy. And for those of you who are listening around the world, I want to thank Greek Beat Radio.
Beats Radio. Beats Radio. Beats Radio.
And that's where we get all that special effects from. All that money that goes into the show.
There you go.
So, yes, for all the people who are listening in Australia, South Africa, all throughout Europe, and, of course, throughout the UK, and here in North America, Canada, and the U.S., we're so happy that you're with us today. And I am very, very pleased because one of the things that I've always made a big deal about is the medical personnel, doctors, nurses, ambulance drivers, federal employees, anyone, all the essential people, truck drivers, bringing food back and forth, coast to coast, doing such a wonderful job. Hats off to you. You guys are unbelievable. And my next guest is, she is something special. Dr. Stephanie Thomas. She is a pediatric oncologist who specializes in adolescent and young adult oncology and solid tumors in children and adolescents. She has completed her pediatric residency and pediatric hematology oncology fellowship training at the Cleveland Clinic Children's Hospital. Following her initial training, she completed a fourth fellowship training in adolescent and young adult oncology at the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles, California, at the University of Southern Cal, at the Norris Center, Cancer Center. She stayed on to serve as the assistant professor of clinical pediatrics in the division of hematology oncology and the blood and marrow transplantation. Dr. Thomas is currently a clinical assistant professor of pediatrics at the Cleveland Clinic Lerner College of Medicine, where she is active in education, quality, and patient safety, and the care of adolescents and the young adults with cancer. Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you?
I would have listed all your academic accolades, but we got to talk to you too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, a long bio.
Now, Janice, I have to tell you, Janice, the reason why this young lady is special, she's probably one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. She completed her first year of college when she was in the third grade. And the one thing, and she's also my cousin. And I was always impressed with her academics. I've never, you were just unbelievable. You really did complete your first year of college when you were in high school. Is that correct?
Yeah, right out. Yeah, right out.
And then you finished. You finished.
I like third grade better. I think you ought to go with that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, one of the smart. She went to summer school. Did you breathe at all during your younger years when you went to college? Did you breathe at all?
No breathing.
No breathing.
No breathing.
Not allowed.
She was the most unbelievable person, and she went to Youngstown State, and then she finished up going, and you did your residency at the Cleveland Clinic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, which was, that was, to me, I always thought, because I always think the Cleveland Clinic is the place to go to. And it is. And to be honest with you, I've never been more proud. But, Stephanie, let me ask you a couple of questions on a serious note. I know you work with pediatric oncology,
mm-hmm.
but have you shifted gears because of what's going on with the coronavirus?
Yeah, we've luckily in pediatrics and in pediatric oncology in particular, where we are, at least, we're not seeing a ton of coronavirus in our own patient population. But really, the whole medical field has shifted because of what's going on with the virus. Our hospital scaled up beds to make sure that we have enough beds available for a potential surge. And in doing that, they're actually cross-training all of the nurses and doctors. So even though we typically take care of children and children with cancer, we're actually all are being put onto teams to potentially take care of adults with coronavirus. With a team lead that's in the ICU or in general internal medicine. So it has really changed kind of the feel of the hospital and a lot of kind of what our everyday responsibilities are. And we're also not going into work every day, which I miss because, you like your colleagues.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that because you have to keep, social distancing anyway. But, and I'm sure you want to see your colleagues, but I mean, the nurses and the doctors and all the medical professionals and ambulance drivers from A to Z has been gone through so much. And, someone was talking about that a lot of people are going to wind up having some type of issues as far as almost like PTSD. And because these people are putting their lives on the line. And my concern is for my family, including you, that, you are putting your lives on the line, and is it taking its toll on you as well?
Yeah, I think there's a level of anxiety really of anyone that's in the medical profession right now. I think, and I don't think it's necessarily all, if you're frontline. I think if you're frontline, you're definitely going to have aspects of PTSD, and there's a lot of scary things happening, but just the way that we practice has changed so much. With visitor restrictions, we have, children who are not doing well or who are dying of their cancers or of other things, but their siblings aren't allowed to come into the hospital, or their grandparents can't come visit. And so it not only is changing things surrounding the coronavirus itself, but just general medical practice has been very different. I think it's really hard on everyone that we've had to change our practice that way.
What have we been? What have we been doing as? Has the separation of social distancing and staying in the house? Do you feel it's truly helped? I see the numbers, going down. Hit that plateau. What do you see? I know you're in Northeast Ohio in the Cleveland area. What do you see up there?
I think when you look at, I think it's hard to compare to states to New York, right? Because the population density in New York is just so different than anywhere else in the country. Even Los Angeles, which is super populated, doesn't have that same population density. I think when you look, though, at Ohio, that did a lot of the social distancing measures much earlier than places like Michigan for Detroit or Louisiana, which have similar populations and population density. You can see by comparing certain locations or certain cities that seems to have worked. And I think you really can. What's hard is that deaths lag behind. So even though our cases are going down, our death rate in Ohio has actually increased the past couple of days. But deaths lag behind about 2 to 3 weeks. So you can't really compare numbers right away. It really is looking at it over time, and I think it really is helping.
Do you think we're going to wind up? I'm sorry, Janice, were you going to ask a question?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, how long do you think we're going to have to keep on social distancing and stay in home? And what would you recommend if you were in charge? The doctors that they have over at the government, Dr. I forgot his name. The one who's Fauci, who's the infectious disease control doctor, right? So, he's suggesting that we probably go through the entire month of May as well. Yeah. And that's going to destroy I think it'll destroy the economy to a point where it's going to be very, very difficult to get back. Yeah. What do you think?
I think it's hard. I think that things will hopefully start to slowly open up at the beginning of May, but I don't foresee everyone going back to normal. I don't think that restaurants will necessarily be open at the beginning of May, which is it's heartbreaking. And I have a large group of friends in the entertainment industry from when I lived in Los Angeles, and they're all out of work and trying to figure out how they're going to pay their rent. And we have Zoom calls for fun, but it's not, it's everyone. It's really taking a toll on everyone. And I don't think there's an easy answer of when they can open up and how slowly it's going to have to happen for it to work.
Has any type of, as far as the kids are concerned, because I know you work in pediatrics, children who wind up getting COVID-19, are they more susceptible to having long-term issues or breathing issues because they're smaller lungs? What's going on, and what is the difference between them and the adults?
I think that's a big question that has come out because what's different from COVID-19 and influenza is that influenza usually impacts younger babies even much more severely, and then the older population. And this, for whatever reason, is not affecting kids. And I was talking to our infectious disease doctors today, and what was interesting is they went back and looked at all of our other coronavirus patients. So we routinely test when we do a viral panel for coronavirus, not COVID-19, but coronavirus before this all started as a separate virus. And what has been interesting, or what they found, was that the median age of patients with coronavirus in our hospital was actually in their 50s, so around the same time. And so they're thinking that, maybe this is older people that have already been exposed to coronavirus or a different strain of coronavirus, and really the damage that gets done to them and the sickness that they have is from an increased immune response, and maybe that second hit of a similar virus that's not exactly the same is causing that exaggerated immune response, rather than children who are not getting coronavirus as frequently, the little ones, and maybe they're not having that exaggerated immune response because it's their first hit. So I think we're all trying to figure out why that is right now, and there's a lot of research going on, but not a great understanding of what exactly is happening.
And Basil, we're going to have to take a break here in about 30 seconds, so...
Sure. We're going to get back to Dr. Stephanie Thomas, who I'm proud to say is my cousin. And tell your mom and dad I said hello, and your sister and brother, and the baby, and everything. But, folks, we're going to be back with Dr. Stephanie Thomas. More questions about COVID-19. And we're going to do a couple of these sponsor breaks, and we'll be right back with more of A Pinch of Basile after these messages.
Now, back to the show.
Oh, we are indeed back here. We're listening to A Pinch of Basile. I'm very, very proud to say that we are all over the world on americamatters.us. Check us out. It's under A Pinch of Basile. And also, for those of you who are watching, sharing this all over as well, always go to Basile Fans, Basile Fans, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and you can be heard. We can just be heard all over the world. I want to thank Greek Beat Radio for helping us.
Greek Beat Radio. Greek Beat Radio.
The effects that we have here, folks. That's why we get paid the big bucks. That's all I'm going to tell you. So for my fans in Australia, throughout Europe, through North America, all the way to South Africa, and even down the Greek Latinos in Central and South America, I want to thank you for joining me. You are right now together with my wonderful cousin, Dr. Stephanie Thomas, who is an oncologist, a pediatric oncologist at the Cleveland Clinic. And there's a shout-out that, Stephanie, you and I both have to do to make sure that your sister and brother and, of course, the drip and the little drip, they're doing okay. And so you got to shout-out to all my cousins who are watching their wonderful sister, daughter, and other cousins that are involved, too, watching. We're very, very proud of you for the work that you've done. And have doing and will continue to do. I do have a question that I thought about this, and I was actually talking to Janice about this earlier. We had a chance, we were talking, the president was talking about this, and I hope I'm saying correctly, hydroxychloroquine with erythromycin and zinc. Mm-hmm. And everyone is making a big deal about this. Mm-hmm. Now, look, I don't care what side of the political spectrum, we all fall under, because I have a ton of liberal friends and relatives, and I have a bunch of conservative friends and relatives and fans. So I don't care. I just want to save lives. And the one thing, and I was talking about this with Janice earlier, is this something that we can give, and is there any medical proof that if you take it before you wind up going and getting and contracting COVID-19, is it helping at all?
So the research that's been done so far shows that if you start these drugs earlier, once you've already contracted COVID-19, then there might be a benefit in having less severe disease. In patients that already have more severe disease, that are already hospitalized, already in the ICUs, and there's not a ton of data. And the little data that we have, that doesn't seem to help once they're that sick. And I don't know of any data that actually shows if you do it before you contract the disease, that it prevents you from getting it. But the data that came out of France is showing that the viral load, so the amount of virus that you have in your blood, seems to decrease and the amount of virus that you have usually correlates with severity of disease because it correlates with the severity of your immune response. Mm-hmm. So there might be some benefit in using it once you have coronavirus or COVID-19, but you're not sick enough that you're in the hospital or in the ICU.
You know, and is quinine, you know, because they're all making, is that have anything to do with this? Because everybody kept talking about, you know, the only thing I remembered, you know, in reading in any history was people were taking quinine during the malaria breakout. Mm-hmm. Would it be beneficial for people who don't have, you know, this disease, this virus? Is that help? Would that help at all? Yeah, I mean, you can get quinine easily at any pharmacist.
Quinine, I think, is an older drug, and it than hydroxychloroquine, and has a more severe side effect panel. So if you take too much quinine, you can go into liver failure. But hydroxychloroquine doesn't have as severe as of a side effect panel. It's like why it was developed. So I don't think it would be worth taking. I don't think there's any data that shows that it would be worth taking to prevent it from happening. But I think if you have symptoms and it's something you want to talk to your doctor about, then it would make sense when you have earlier on a disease to go ahead and possibly start taking it. I know medical boards around the country are already kind of cracking down on prescribing this and looking at if you're prescribing to friends and family and making sure that physicians are prescribing to only their patients and not the family members. So there's concern that there might become a drug shortage if we use it this way instead of patients that are already on it to control their autoimmune diseases. So it's a fine kind of line of when it would be beneficial or not.
Is there anything that you think should be? I mean, do you have any type of a hunch or something that your little spider senses are tingling, saying, "I wonder if they did this," or "I wonder if they did that." That may, and I know you're not involved in any of the research that's being done right now, but is there anything that you think would help?
I think the only stuff that we know really helps is decreasing your exposure. So, social isolation as much as possible, but, washing your hands, which I know sounds absolutely ridiculous, wearing a mask. I think there might be benefit to taking zinc. That's not something that's really on short supply. And then all the normal stuff of getting enough sleep, making sure that you're healthy in every other aspect of your life, eating a healthy diet. That really is, the most helpful thing that we know right now. And it's really hard that until there's research that can be done and that takes time, as preventive research takes the longest time because it needs the most amount of patients to figure out if there's a benefit.
Can I ask a quick question? A lot of the media has been talking about, and the doctors have been talking about, people who are asymptomatic. So if somebody is, how long does that virus stay with them? If they're not showing signs, obviously they don't know when it started. How do you determine that? Once they have determined that, then does that person go through the course of the disease without having any symptoms and then it goes away? Do they have to stay in quarantine forever? Are they like a typhoid Mary, right?
Yeah. I think that, it's hard. And I think we're learning more and more about this every day. But right now, the thought is that the majority of patients, if they're going to show symptoms about 4 to 5 days after their initial exposure, and then are usually shedding virus for about 14 days. So the recommendation is that once you've had a known exposure, even if you're asymptomatic, that you're supposed to quarantine for about 14 days. It's hard if you don't know, if you don't know you had that exposure and you don't have symptoms. I don't think it's possible to really know that, but the idea right now is about 14 days.
Okay, so then it does go away just like it would if you had the virus itself, or if you knew you had it. Okay.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, Stephanie, because Janice's brother also has issues with cancer, and I know she had a couple of questions.
Actually,
she wanted to ask you.
Asked him if he had any questions, and the thing that he said to me was that his doctor is keeping him alive, and he's happy. So I thought that was a nice thing to say about his doctor. So he has. Waldstrom's syndrome. So not something that's curable, and, So anyway, but I don't really have any questions specific. He just didn't have any. He was very, content with where he's at.
Good.
Is that something? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of cancers that cannot be cured or made better, or cannot be fought off with any type of, I guess, any type of therapy that's out there. Mm-hmm. What you do, dealing with children, is probably perhaps one of the toughest things to see kids that go through what you do. You must have one hell of a strong will. How you don't break into tears. Our cousin Melissa Manis worked as a social worker at, I believe it was Youngstown Children's Hospital. And, I played Youngstown quite often, and I was there during the Christmas holiday, and she asked me to play Santa Claus. Yeah. And like an idiot, I said, okay, I'll do Santa Claus. Yeah, listen, because, we've always done things for nonprofits and stuff that you do, to volunteer time. And, I got the blue contact lenses. I whited out my eyebrows. I put on this great beard. I was hunched over, great wig that was on. I was just, coming in there, right. And I have never cried more than maybe when my mom and dad passed. And to see that was one of the toughest things. Sweetheart, how do you put up with it? How do you do it? And actually live through that, to talk about it.
So the truth is there's, we have about an 80 to 90% cure rate of childhood cancer right now.
Awesome.
It's amazing. And it's a lot of our leukemia lymphoma population. Unfortunately, our kids with brain tumors or solid tumors don't do as well. And it really is finding the joy in every day, which I know sounds kind of corny. But it's there's I think one of the greatest privileges of the job that I get to do is to get to know these kids and these families. And also you see the goodness of community, I think, more than in any other job. Full communities come together to support families.
45 seconds, Basil.
It's a beautiful thing to see. So it's, yeah.
Well, honey, I got to tell you, I think you're great.
You too.
You were forced to say that. No, listen,
she did it well, though.
I love you. Dr. Stephanie Thomas, my cousin, my sweetheart, loving your entire family and our entire family. Thank you so much for being on the show. I truly appreciate it. I hope you come back again. Folks, for those of you, don't forget, listen every week on Tuesdays from 6 to 7 New York City time. We can be heard all around the world on AmericanMatters.us.